I was 13 the night my parents deleted me. Not left me, deleted me. There's a difference you can taste. Like the copper on your tongue when lightning is seconds away. I remember the snap of the Oklahoma sky cracking open, the smell of scorched asphalt, and the bright yellow awning of the Love's Travel stop off I-40 glowing like a crooked halo. Dad's pickup eased to the curb beneath the canopy, wipers slashing the windshield into twitchy ribbons. Mom twisted in her seat, her smile taut as duct tape. "Run in, grab us 3 hot chocolates, we'll top off the gas," she said, slipping a damp 20 into my palm. Even then, the lie felt brittle. They never bought hot chocolate. They were calorie counters, disciplined to the decimal. But the rain hammered so hard, it pressed thought flat. And the idea of something warm between my freezing fingers sounded merciful. I sprinted across the forecourt, sneakers sloshing in ankle-deep puddles, the automatic doors whooshing shut behind me with a sigh that felt suspiciously like goodbye. The man working the counter looked up from a dog-eared romance novel. "Rough night, kiddo." "Just wet," I muttered, juggling 3 styrofoam cups under the sputtering cappuccino machine. Outside, thunder rattled the glass, and the lights flickered. They held. When I stepped back into the storm, the parking lane where the truck had idled was empty. No pickup, no parents. Only 2 wavering taillight smudges dissolving into sheets of rain. My breath seized. The cups dropped, spewing brown across the slick concrete. Foam hissed like dying fireworks. I waded through 1 full chorus of the gas station's muzak, through 2, through whatever comes after dread and before understanding. The yellow awning felt smaller, the storm bigger, until Trooper Dana Morales of the Oklahoma Highway Patrol rolled up. Light bar slicing the darkness, red, blue, red, blue. She cracked her window and met my eyes wide, frantic, already recalculating a life that didn't yet know it was orphaned. "Hey there, you all right?" The question shattered me. Tears did the rest. In her cruiser, I smelled damp vinyl and citrus-scented dashboard cleaner. Odd details that still snap into focus whenever I hear windshield wipers. She radioed Child Protective Services, filed child neglect, abandonment, and ferried me to a station where fluorescent lights hummed like hornets above a stack of intake forms. She offered a candy bar. I asked for a phone. I dialed every number I knew. Voicemail. Some lines disconnected mid-ring, as if reality itself had pulled them from the switchboard. That was the first deletion. "My name is Sloan Carter, now General Sloan Carter. U.S. Army Cyber Command. 1 silver star pinned over a heart that learned censorship before it learned algebra. The government embroidered me a new existence when I hacked my way into ROTC at 18. Because numbers carry weight, and ghosts slip easily through firewalls. Still, no metal outshines the memory of rain. I keep a Route 66 souvenir coin in my breast pocket, its edges worn smooth from decades of restless thumb circles. Found it that night beside the fuel pump. Someone must have dropped their change fleeing the storm. It's my talisman and my reminder. Highways chew up what families spit out. But they also lead forward. Heads marks the mother road. Tails reads, "Get your kicks. Flip it." And destiny clinks against chance. 20 years after the deletion, that coin spun across a glass podium on national television and detonated the tidy lives of the people who made me vanish. But we're not there yet. First, you need to feel the silence they sealed me in. The yawning blank page where my childhood file should sit. Unknown parents, unknown allergies, unknown dreams, unknown, until I wrote myself back in. If you're still watching, lean closer. I'm about to tell you how I took that emptiness and turned it into a battering ram, how a stateless teenager became the checksum for an empire's corrupted database. This story isn't comfort food. It's black coffee at 3 a.m., bitter and scalding, but guaranteed to wake the parts of you you've let doze. So, do me a favor. Tap that like button if you've ever felt erased. hit subscribe so the algorithm remembers your name, and drop a comment telling me the one secret you wish the world couldn't ignore. Because here, in this corner of the internet, nobody gets deleted on my watch. Feel that shiver in your spine. That's the first bite of the data breach we're about to unleash. Across 2 decades, I collected proof like I collected scars discreetly, methodically, believing someday the right pattern would emerge. It finally did one ordinary Tuesday, when my aide Lieutenant Latifah Vega Johnson, NSA prodigy and professional conspiracy bloodhound, burst into my office waving a tablet. "General, you need to see this." Leaning over her shoulder, I watched a string of glowing green code spool down the screen. User R. Carter, execute child record delete, timestamp 2007 06 to 14 21 16 47. My father's digital fingerprint, frozen in the act. His credentials, still active, still hidden inside the Department of Defense's supposedly impenetrable Jupiter Zero Trust network. I tasted that same metal and ozone from the gas station storm. But this time it wasn't fear. It was voltage. "Print it. Archive it off-grid," I ordered, voice steady even as my pulse jackhammered. Vega's eyebrow arched. She'd never seen my hands shake before. "That's your smoking gun." "No," I murmured, clenching the coin so tight its ridges branded my palm. "That's the primer. The gun goes off at the Cyber Defense Summit, in front of Congress. Live." She whistled low. "High collateral. You ready to torch a career you built from ash?" I thought of Dad's crisp salute, Mom's cable news smiles, my sister Hayden orbiting above in her Space Force blues, all of them cushioned by a surname they'd vacuum-sealed from me. "Legacy's just a glitch in the code," I said. "Time to debug." Outside the window, storm clouds massed over Fort Gordon, summer thunder rumbling like a drum roll. History loves symmetry. The sky was cueing my encore. But before we drop that bombshell on C-SPAN, you and I need to drive back down Route 66 past neon diners and rusted oil derricks, to the exact mile marker where a child's name went missing. We need to sift through CPS files stamped confidential, decode the hush-hush medical forms Mom forged, and peek into the Pentagon server Dad thought no one would ever audit. We need to map every breadcrumb they left in their haste to forget me. And we'll do it together one bite at a time, because ghosts make the best tour guides through haunted houses. Ready to find out what happens when a deleted daughter rewrites the operating system of an entire family and maybe an entire country? Good. Hold your breath. The next sound you hear will be the coin hitting the podium. I spent my first night as a deleted child in a CPS shelter that smelled like boiled cabbage and bleach. Fluorescent bulbs buzzed overhead while I lay on a vinyl-topped cot. Every muscle braced for the pickup headlights that never came. Trooper Morales left me with a fleece blanket red, frayed, donated by a church youth group, then disappeared into the rain. Wiper blades scissoring her cruiser back to duty. The staff called me sweetheart, the way people pat a stray dog gentle. But already turning away. Paperwork word from an ancient dot matrix printer. Each noisy tear of perforated edges felt like another piece of my identity curling to the floor. The forms listed me as Sloan Unknown. Age 13, no medical records, no shot history, no next of kin. An asterisk flagged possible tribal affiliation because brown skin in Oklahoma still prompts someone to guess Cherokee. Choctaw, something convenient for the database. Nobody asked me. Why bother? A blank field is faster to process. That night, I learned a rule America never advertises: paper beats blood. With the right signature, you can erase a daughter as cleanly as you void a check. Dad understood signatures. He issued them for a living. Mom understood loopholes. She argued them billable by the hour. I imagined them laughing over post-workout smoothies, congratulating each other on administrative efficiency. The Foster Carousel. They placed me with the McKenna family, first 3 overworked bio kids. one television permanently set to cable news. Mrs. McKenna taped my Route 66 coin to the kitchen corkboard for safekeeping, next to expired pizza coupons and a magnet that read, "This house runs on Jesus and Java." She caught me reclaiming it at midnight and scolded, "Find a healthier security blanket." "Honey," I swallowed the retort that real blankets don't buy back your name. School was a battlefield of permission slips I couldn't sign. Without immunization proof, I got corralled into Nurse Bailey's office. Sleeves rolled up for redundant shots while classmates filed past the door whispering, "New girls probably got rabies." Gym class was worse, every emergency contact line empty. Every parent-teacher night, another seat reserved for ghosts. I stopped raising my hand. I started memorizing network passwords I glimpsed over librarians' shoulders. If adults wouldn't vouch for my existence, maybe code would. After 3 months, the McKennas asked for a placement reevaluation, their polite way of hitting unsubscribe. Next came Mrs. Alvarez, a 62-year-old widow with a soft spot for stray cats and HBO crime dramas. She let me keep the coin, but her furnace wheezed through Midwest winters, and she fell behind on utility bills. When the state iced her stipend, they relocated me again, this time to a group home nicknamed The Warehouse for its cinder block charm and industrial roster of teenagers cycling in and out. There I met Kenny, a whip-smart gamer who built malware in study hall and swapped it for cafeteria desserts. Kenny taught me Python basics between bites of powdered donuts. He said, "People trust paperwork. Computers trust math. Be math." I tattooed the line on my brain. Nights after curfew, we'd sit under a busted exit sign, screens glowing blue against our faces like tiny moons, rewriting the permissions on our futures. Most kids hoarded cigarettes. We hoarded root passwords. 3 unspoken vows. By 15, I had drafted 3 vows code. Really. Crisp and unbreakable. No one deletes me twice. I will weaponize every gap in their firewall of privilege. When I return, it won't be as a beggar, it'll be as the checksum they can't ignore. The Route 66 coin became my physical commit #flip it during decisions. Log the outcome in a beat-up notebook. Heads meant risk. Tails meant patience. The coin landed heads more often than statistics allow. Or maybe I nudged it subconsciously. Either way, risk won. Engineering a birth certificate. At 16, I discovered the Army Junior ROTC database used a legacy SQL server with laughably lax encryption. One snow day afternoon, I borrowed the warehouse's dusty Dell, tunneled through a proxy, and drafted a digital birth Sloan Carter. Born June 14, 1994, Nashville, Tennessee. I attached forged vaccination records. Thank you. Nurse Bailey. SAT scores lifted from a classmate who never bothered checking his College Board account, and a letter of recommendation signed R. Carter, Colonel, Integrity Division. That last flourish was pure spite, but the system accepted it without blinking. 2 weeks later, an official-looking envelope arrived. Congratulations, Cadet Carter. You have been selected for the Army ROTC Scholarship Program. Mrs. Alvarez cried when she read it. She's the only foster parent who ever did. I hugged her, careful not to crush the brittle bones in her shoulders, and promised to visit. Then I left Oklahoma with 1 duffel bag, a government meal card, and the coin. Against all odds. The dream of service, Dad's old dream, twisted into mine, carried me east to Georgia Tech. The myth of equal stripes, ROTC, drilled discipline into my limbs and camouflage into my pores. But equality. That uniform promise frayed fast. Day 1. Upperclassman, Caleb joke machine. Hirsch slapped my shoulder. Carter. Any relation to Rick Carter at the Pentagon? Dude's a legend. I forced a grin. Only in his own mind. Caleb laughed, thinking it's sarcasm. Instructors called us a band of brothers. Meanwhile, Legacy kids compared career tracks over Starbucks, while scholarship cadets like me juggled part-time shifts and student loan calculators. The American meritocracy is just gentrified nepotism wearing combat boots. I graduated top 3 in my cohort, but the commissioning ceremony felt hollow. Dad's reserved seat stayed empty, a white fold-out chair glaring beneath Georgia June's sunlight. The master of ceremonies read my bogus bio aloud. Daughter of Colonel Richard Carter, and I half expected lightning to strike me down for perjury. It didn't. Paper still beat blood. First duty station, Fort Gordon. Army Cyber Command. There, I met real power people who could freeze entire economies with a keystroke, yet still needed 3 signatures to requisition printer ink. I learned to navigate that hypocrisy, embedding myself like benign malware until promotion boards couldn't remember a time I wasn't in the room. Vega, the catalyst. Enter Lieutenant Latifah Johnson, call sign Vega, a Detroit kid with an eidetic memory for IP addresses and a mouth that fired sarcasm at 600 RPM. She clocked the chip on my shoulder before I admitted it existed. Over black coffee in the skiff at 0200 she said, "You audit servers like you're hunting a personal demon." I almost laughed. 2 years later, when Vega burst into my office waving that deletion log, the demon materialized on screen, wearing my father's credentials like a trophy. The moment cracked the shell I'd spent a lifetime soldering shut. Imagine living in a house you built to outsmart storms, then hearing the exact thunderclap that started it all rumble through your hallway. That's what the code looked like, digital thunder. I felt sweat bead along my spine. Uniform jacket suddenly 2 sizes too small. The Route 66 coin burned against my ribs, as if the embossed highway were heating under desert sun. Heads or tails, I didn't flip. I already knew. Heads risk, action, exposure. The road back to the storm. Within 24 hours, Vega and I traced Dad's access key to a dormant admin portal buried inside Jupiter Zero Trust. A smudge the auditors missed for 16 years because heroes rarely audit heroes. We built our exploit like watchmakers' silent gears. Jeweled pivots, nothing extra. But tech alone wouldn't bury a legacy that old. I needed public spectacle, cultural pressure, the American way of enforcing morality, outrage, plus live broadcast, ease, accountability. And the calendar delivered Cyber Defense Summit, Washington, D.C., July 4th weekend, Independence Day. How poetic. Military brass, lawmakers, every cybersecurity journalist with a functioning hotspot, all flocking to the same Marriott ballroom. Ticket secured, keynote slot confirmed. The program listed my talk as future-proofing zero trust integrity in the age of quantum threats. They'd have integrity. All right, rough cut, unfiltered, streaming to every C-SPAN addict with a recliner and a remote. Thunderheads rolled across Fort Gordon the night before my flight. Fat clouds bruised purple by heat lightning. I stepped onto the barracks balcony, coin in hand. For a heartbeat, the air tasted exactly like it had at 13 ionized. Electric, thick with impending judgment. I whispered into the wind, "I'm coming for you." Maybe the words were aimed at Dad. Maybe at the entire system. Maybe at the scared kid still waiting under a gas station awning. Behind me, my phone pinged, a direct message from Hayden Carter, my sister. Or what passes for one when family is a public relations brand. Heard your keynoting. Be careful what you open. Big sis, some boxes stay buried for a reason. She punctuated it with a rocket emoji. Space Force humor. I typed 3 words back. See you soon. No emoji. Then I flipped the coin into the air. It glittered against a flash of lightning heads, obviously before vanishing into the darkness. The metallic plink of landing drowned by thunder. I'd find it in the grass at dawn. But for now, its arc was enough. Because tomorrow I'd board a plane to Washington carrying 2 things: a souvenir coin and a kill switch file. One cost 25 cents, the other could bankrupt reputations and rewrite legislation. Funny how value works in America. Stick around, because in Part 3 we crash the summit, ignite a digital earthquake, and test whether a deleted girl can rewrite the nation's story before the nation deletes her again. A dawn flight out of Augusta has all the glamour of a Greyhound, but the cabin lights dimmed and I drifted halfway between turbulence and memory. The Route 66 coin lay warm against my collarbone, heat leached from skin, weightless in the pocket of my dress blues. Somewhere above the clouds, a flight attendant balanced black coffee over my lap. She glanced at the single star on my epaulette, then at the dark half-moons under my eyes. Holiday travel's rough. General, big plans for the 4th. Fireworks, I said, and meant every syllable. The old gentleman beside me bolo tie. Newsprint yellow fingers nodded. Country needs reminding what liberty costs. He spoke like Vietnam never stopped echoing. I smiled politely and thought, you have no idea. A city primed for spectacle, Washington was already vibrating. A capital-sized piñata stuffed with parades, speeches, and star-spangled swag. Vendor carts crowded the metro exits. Selling plastic flags made an ocean away. I rolled my carry-on past them, feeling the city's data pulse like bass in concrete. Every LED banner downtown flashed conference hashtags, CDS 2027, Shard Zero Trust Future, hashtag Cyber Heroes. My father would be here, basking in that hero glow. The Marriott's lobby smelled of polished brass and imposter confidence. Contractors in navy suits compared Pentagon buzzwords over pumpkin spice lattes. Interns lugged tote bags branded with defense industry logos bigger than their career prospects. I checked in under S. Carter, closed the blackout curtains in my room, and cracked open the laptop. Vega was already on the encrypted call. Detroit skyline behind her like shattered glass. Bad news, Jupiter flagged an unsanctioned anomaly at 0300. Our test packet tripped an AI routine, she said, voice clipped. What level? Yellow. Not red yet, but yellow gets human eyes soon. I rubbed the coin against my lip, tasting copper and dread. We accelerate. Move the payload window up 48 hours. That's 5 a.m. tomorrow. Freedom doesn't sleep. Vega exhaled, steam fogging her webcam. Copy. I'll reroute through a weather sensor in Guam. Nobody audits rainfall. Echoes in the ballroom dress rehearsal walkthrough. 1,500 hours. Rows of empty chairs perched like judgment birds under ceiling chandeliers. The massive LED wall behind the stage cycled sponsor slides Raytheon, Booz Allen, Legendary Systems, Dad's favorite revolving door. I stood at the lectern, testing the mic, seeks check. 1, deletion, 2, and watched my waveform snake across a monitor. Perfect. Acoustics were crisp enough for a pin and a coin to ring. Halfway back, Hayden strolled in, Space Force blues pressed, ponytail surgically sharp. You're early? I called. She crossed arms. So are you. Dad's people caught chatter online, something about a coin and a child. He thinks it's trolls, but Mom's nervous. I felt my heartbeat slip into parade cadence. You're here to warn me or spy on me? Both, she admitted. If you love this uniform, don't torch it for revenge. She stepped closer. The projector light shimmered off her medals. Or, at least, don't livestream the bonfire. I'll keep the flames tasteful. I offered a smile. Small, brittle. Her eyes softened a fraction before duty shuttered them again. Hayden pressed a USB drive into my hand. Dad keeps encrypted archives on a personal air-gapped laptop. That's the decryption key. I'm not condoning anything, I'm leveling the field. She spun on her heel and was gone. Boots echoing like a countdown. I weighed the drive betrayal packed in plastic smaller than a postage stamp. Twist the sister turns key holder. Heads or tails flip. The coin clacked against my palm heads. Risk drive slid into my jacket. Livestream from Ground Zero. At night, DC, humidity feels like dishwater on the skin. But I needed open air and a symbolic detour. A rented Jeep, 4 hours southwest. Gravel crunching into the Love's travel stop where the story started. The store looked smaller fluorescent bulbs browned at the edges. Awning paint flaked by decades of hail. I propped my phone on the dash. TikTok Live spinning up viewers quicker than mosquitoes. Hey, America, I began, rainfall tapping the windshield as if summoned on cue. 4th of July is about declaration. This is where my parents declared me non-existent. I walked past Pump 6 camera, following the beam of a cheap ring light. Tomorrow, they'll sit front row at a conference celebrating integrity. Let's see if lightning strikes twice. Chat exploded crying face emojis. Salute emojis. That single jerk typing fake sob story. I didn't delete him. Trolls are proof of audience. My view count hit 2.1 million before hotel Wi-Fi stuttered. Perfect saturation. Vega texted a single word. Trending. But trending cuts two ways. 30 minutes later, a push alert from a defense sector blog popped. Cyber General posts. Cryptic abandonment rant concerns. Raise over summit security. The article featured my live clip. Pixelated. Under a headline, one font size shy of panic. Dad's PR radar would already be blazing. Breach in the firewall of nostalgia 2 a.m. Back in my hotel. Code scrolled like rain on the retina. The USB from Hayden unlocked a directory labeled Miski Estate Planning, the kind of innocuous title only guilty people use. Inside scanned psych evals. A CPS transfer form signed by a Judge Elaine B. Judge, Carter mom's maiden name. False authority and, buried deep, an email thread with subject contingency scholarship. They'd set aside a trust fund in my name, payable only upon death certificate. In other words, the Carters financed their own daughter's funeral paperwork. Stomach acid surged. The room spun. So it wasn't just deletion, it was financial speculation on my potential corpse. I pushed back from the desk, chest tight, pulse drumming in ears. Anger came iced, not hot. I forwarded the folder to Vega with note insurance. Release if I disappear. She replied with a thumb-up gif of a fire-breathing dragon. Gallows humor keeps hackers sane. Outside, fireworks rehearsals cracked the skyline. Each boom shoved echo through the glass. A war zone lullaby for insomniacs. I rehearsed my keynote aloud until words blurred integrity. Quantum. Zero trust. They tasted like chalk. What I craved was confession public. Irreversible. An unexpected visitor, 4:37 a.m. Someone pounded my door. Not the polite housekeeping rap, this was knuckles of authority. I slipped the coin between fingers, like brass knuckles, and peered through the peephole. Dad. Uniformed. Ribbons gleaming. Jaw stone set. For a moment, I was 13 again. Hot chocolates puddling at my feet. I opened the latch. He stepped inside, shut the door with military precision. Silence buffered us except for the humming minibar. Sloan, he began, voice measured. We need to de-escalate. You're upset. I understand. I almost laughed. Upset was what you feel when Starbucks runs out of cold foam. Did Mom draft that opening? His cheek twitched. Your live stream jeopardizes national security. Funny. I thought erasing a citizen's existence did that. He glanced at the laptop, still aglow with evidence. I made hard choices for the mission. Which mission? Operation Perfect Image. Lightning flared outside, whitewashing the curtains. Dad's eyes fixed on the coin in my fist. You're still clinging to that trinket, he muttered. It's worth more than a fraudulent trust fund. His shoulders squared. I'm offering you a path-quiet retirement. Sealed records. Walk away and keep your stars. Walk away. The phrase tasted like rot. And leave thousands of foster kids thinking deletion is destiny? No. He sighed, reached into his jacket slow, deliberate. Instinct fired adrenal dump. Muscles coiled. He produced a manila envelope. slid it across the desk. Inside are statements proving your CPS file was tampered with by an external actor. Not me. Take them on stage. Blame a rogue clerk. Keep the family intact. I stared at the envelope. Thin as a lie. What's the catch? Publicly exonerate your mother and me. Announce a joint initiative for child record modernization. Hero narrative for everyone. My breath misted in the cold aircon. And if I refuse, then you'll force me to classify you as a threat. The words landed softly, like snow on barbed wire. My pulse slammed in my ears. Heads or tails, I rolled the coin over knuckles once, twice. His gaze followed the silver flash. You always were dramatic. Only learned from the best. I smiled with all the teeth God gave me, then flicked the coin high. Metal spun under fluorescent light, hissing through stale air. Arcs of history razor thin. Dad's reflex twitched, eyes tracking. The coin peaked. Gravity paused. Decision suspended. The coin fell. It clicked off the edge of the desk, skittered across the carpet, and rolled in a tight, furious circle metal humming like a hornet. Dad's pupils flicked after it, head moving a fraction. The way a rifleman tracks ricochet. Gravity chose for both of us heads. The risk face. The coin slapped flat against the baseboard. George Washington staring up as if to say, well? I breathed in. The room's hotel soap air smelled suddenly electric. The kind of charge that precedes a storm surge, or a power outage you cause on purpose.
No deal, I said.
Dad's jaw flexed, but his voice stayed velvet. Sloan, you're emotional. I'm operational, I corrected, stepping between him and the laptop, and your contingency fund, Mom's probate sleight of hand, already mirrored to 3 independent newsrooms. Time delay release. Touch me. Those files flood the internet. For the first time that night, the colonel's shoulders sagged. He wasn't worried about prison men like him barter their way out of steel. He feared irrelevance. The tarnished no PR firm can Photoshop.
I protected this family, he muttered.
You protected your brand, I shot back. Turns out, I'm the warranty you voided. He reached for the envelope slow now, as if any sudden motion might trigger shrapnel, slid it back into his coat. If you go forward, you render national security collateral damage.
Funny, I said, fingers brushing the coin. Deleting a kid didn't show up on your threat matrix.
His silence tasted like iron. Without another word, he opened the door and vanished down the hallway, closing it with a softness more lethal than a slam. I waited until his footsteps faded, then locked every bolt and wedged a chair beneath the handle.
T10 hours to keynote, I dialed Vega on an encrypted channel. She answered in a hoodie, only the glow of dual monitors illuminating her face. Colonel visit went well. About as well as a root canal on a live wire, I said, relaying details. She whistled through her teeth. He's desperate, which means he'll do something dumb. Good for us, bad for your blood pressure. We pivot, I said. Advance every timer by 3 hours. If their crisis management squad wakes up early, we're already on stage. Copy. Uploading final payload to the Guam sensor now. By the way, that TikTok clip hit 6 million. Hashtag #CheckSomeChild just overtook Cat on Treadmill. Historic. I deadpanned, but the number fluttered my pulse. 6 million strangers were now co-conspirators, each a witness shield against a second deletion. Failsafe lattice. Before sunrise, I built redundancies like fort walls. USB key. Hayden's drive. Now cloned onto 3 microSD cards hidden under the heel pads of my pumps. Deadman switch. If my phone loses biometric contact for more than 6 hours, Vega's bot dumps the Carter email archive onto every major wire service. Physical backup. The Route 66 coin. Etched overnight with a nano engraver Vega kept for fun. Under a jeweler's loop. The underside now bore a QR code linking to a public IPFS node containing all evidence.
Symbol and key. Married in metal. Security theater loves clear plastic ID badges. Truth loves redundancy. The summit dawns, lobby level 3 smelled of pastry carts. Croissants disguised as compliance. Attendees funneled through metal detectors manned by contractors with star-spangled lanyards. I felt the buzz of 1,000 Bluetooth beacons. The room itself a nest of overlapping networks. My badge beeped green. The guard glanced at the silver star on my shoulder and straightened unconsciously. Culture's reflex to hierarchy. Backstage, a stagehand clipped a mic to my lapel. 17 minutes. General. He didn't see my fingers tremble. The years taught me to channel quake into precision. The LED wall behind the curtains cycled my deck title slide. Integrity jargon. Stock photo of an eagle perched on fiber optic cables. Dad must be somewhere in the audience, weighing whether to cut the feed or gamble on plausible deniability. I centered the coin on the lectern. Heads up. It gleamed beneath the spotlight, small, defiant. Unexpected turbulence. 7 minutes to go. My smartwatch vibrated. Vega red flag internal comms show code gray. Summit it, moving to air gap Wi-Fi. Trigger window shrinking. I inhaled slow. The whole plan hinged on live connectivity, delete log auto push to every DoD device. No network. No detonation, just me holding accusations the press could label unverified. Dad's play, clearly. Solutions surfaced like a bubble in magma physical layer breach. If the summit's routers went dark, the projector still ran off a local media server backstage, an HDMI feed anyone could patch with the right adapter. And I carried the right adapter habit of a ghost who never trusts default ports. Change of plan, I murmured into my collar mic. Initiate payload Omega. I'll go manual. You sure? Vega asked. Paper beats blood, I said, echoing my oldest lesson. But image beats paper. Countdown on split-second circuits. The MC strode on stage, voice booming. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brigadier General Sloan Carter. Applause gusted. I walked out, eyes adjusting to auditorium glare. Sea of suits and dress uniforms rippling like a patriot striped tide. First 3 slides breezed by statistics. Cyber breach costs. Polite laughter at a dad joke I delivered with surgical irony. I could feel the audience relax. Boredom is camouflage. Slide 4 eagle photo. I pivoted, gestured grandly, and with my other hand reached under the lectern, invisible to cameras, sliding the HDMI adapter into port. 1 click. The projector hiccuped. Screen blinked black. Murmurs. 2nd click, laptop switched source to my hidden drive titled Quantum Demo. Instead of a quantum animation, a directory surfaced, R. Carter deletion logs. File names scrolled like confession rosary beads. Gasps spattered the room. I leaned into the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, true zero trust starts at home. Let's audit mine. Click open top file. The 2007 timestamp filled the 30-foot screen. Delete child record. Confirm yes. Someone in the 3rd row cursed aloud. Flash photography erupted, though no photography was officially allowed. In the front row, Dad stood, uniform perfect, face drained. This was the image heard round the internet, and we were only 15 seconds in. Dual-edge broadcast, phones everywhere, aimed upward despite the Wi-Fi kill. Didn't matter, 5G still humming outside. Streams mushroomed. Checksum child skyrocketed anew. My heartbeat synced with camera shutter clicks. I addressed the crowd. 20 years ago, a signature tried to erase my existence. Tonight, I return the favor with full audit trail. I palmed the Route 66 coin, held it to the lights like a communion wafer. Proof newly minted. I tossed it. Metal rang as it struck the plexiglass podium mic. In the hush, a vibration quaked my jacket pocket smartwatch again. Vega alert, Hayden just accessed Guam node. She's locking us out. My sister, the contingency from orbit. Of course she'd act. I kept my smile, camera broad. Transparency trips alarms. I said to the audience, half prayer, half warning, behind me. The deletion logs vanished, screen replaced by access denied, security override, Hayden's digital handwriting. The crowd roared confusion. Dad exhaled relief too visibly. That relief stoked my fury white hot. I raised 2 fingers signal to Vega. Payload Omega-2, the failsafe, I never told Hayden. It would bypass Guam completely and push evidence via cellular mesh piggybacking on audience phones, bouncing file fragments device to device until reassembling on public nodes. But I had to buy it 30 seconds.
Think. Sloan. Looks like somebody just tried to delete the truth, I told the audience, voice steady. Good thing redundancy is patriotic. Laughter nervous, but laughter buys time. I began reciting my CPS file, line by line from memory, unknown parents, no medical records. Each sentence a placeholder as silent packets leapt through pockets and purses. Dad's knuckles whitened on the seatback in front of him, sensing momentum tilt. My smartwatch displayed a green check, upload complete.
I stopped mid-sentence. And there, I announced, the checksum verifies.
All phones in the hall buzzed simultaneously, evidence arriving like Judgment Day in pocket-sized parcels. Screens lit with the full archive deletion logs, trust fund emails, forged court orders. A tide of blue-white light washed the auditorium. Some gasped, others cursed. One senator crossed himself.
Shockwave seconds. Security personnel converged on stage. Hayden's hologram flared on the side screen. Space Force link high def. Her face a mix of panic and awe. Sloan. What did you do? She hissed. Audio patch bleeding into house speakers.
Integrity test. I answered. You're welcome.
Dad started forward. But uniformed MPs intercepted him protocol once evidence hits public domain. Mom. Somewhere beyond the stage lights. Shrieked my childhood nickname. It echoed like a fire alarm in a cathedral. Then the auditorium lights flickered. Died. Backup generators kicked. But instead of restoring calm, red emergency LEDs bathed the room in apocalyptic glow. My mic cut to static. Earpiece crackled Vega shouting, "Unscheduled network lockdown. They're isolating you." Blackout was Dad's last card. Isolate the messenger physically when data escapes digitally. I felt hands grip my arms, security dissenters hard to tell in scarlet gloom. Coin gone from my podium, lost in chaos. And that's where we freeze frame a blood-red ballroom. Evidence loose in every pocket. And me one breath away from vanishing all over again, this time in the middle of a crowd. Red emergency LEDs washed the ballroom the color of an open wound, while unfamiliar hands locked around my biceps. Plastic badge lanyards slapped my chest as 2 security contractors hustled me off stage. Boots crunching on shattered glass from toppled light fixtures. Their grips were firm, but not brutal one-size-fits-all crisis response. I caught a glimpse of Dad arguing with an MP, veins standing out on his neck. Mom nowhere. Maybe already phoning a damage control firm. Phones in the audience still glowed like fireflies. Proof that the evidence seed had taken root. My captors dragged me through a service corridor that smelled of burnt popcorn and ozone. With every step, my heart piston-hammered against my ribs. But not from fear. From confirmation. You can't arrest a ghost. Yet here they were, holding on like I might slip through the drywall. General Carter, for your safety and the crowd's, we're conducting a protective extract, the taller guard said, reciting from some crisis handbook. Whose safety, I asked, voice calm but vibrating underneath. Yours or the Colonel's? He didn't answer. We rounded a corner and almost collided with a third figure, Trooper Dana Morales, Oklahoma Highway Patrol uniform swapped for the black blazer of Summit Security. But I recognized the set of her shoulders immediately. The woman who first picked me up in the rain. Stand down. Gentlemen? Morales flashed a badge none of us had clearance to question. I'll escort the general. They hesitated, she added quietly. Chain of custody, Section 47. You want that paperwork? That did it. They released me, nodding sheepishly, then disappeared back toward the chaos. Morales's brown eyes, same calm reservoir I'd half drowned in, at 13, held mine. Long road from Oklahoma, she said. Thought you'd retired. Recruited for Summit Perimeter Ops. Good thing. She guided me down another hallway. Palm light on my elbow. Your broadcast hit every precinct radio on the East Coast. Cops love a scandal that isn't about them. My smartwatch buzzed Vega stage lockdown lifted. Building power stabilizing. Evidence propagating front page on 3 major outlets. A gif of fireworks accompanied the text. I exhaled. We bought enough time for viral replication. Morales stopped by a stairwell door, pressed her back against the wall. Listen. There's a secure service elevator to the media center. Journalists are circled like sharks, hungry for live commentary. You can step out, own the narrative, or let the Pentagon run it for you. I pictured Dad's envelope, Mom's talk show smile, Hayden's uneasy eyes. Ownership is expensive, but silence costs more. Take me to the sharks, I said. Media center melee. We emerged into a fluorescent bright press bullpen. A forest of boom mics and frantic producers. Screens overhead looped raw footage from the blackout my deletion log slide. Dad's white face. The coin hitting plexiglass in mesmerizing slow-mo. Caption, Ghost General exposes Pentagon scandal integrity in question. Instantly a wall of questions slammed into me. General, did you fabricate the files? Are your parents under arrest? Do you fear court-martial? What does this mean for America's foster system? I raised a hand, the room quieted by half. Morales stationed herself by the door like a sentinel. I will answer every question, I began, voice riding the natural microphone hush. But first, understand this is bigger than one family. When documentation is power, deletion becomes violence. Murmurs. Cameras zoomed. Behind the lenses, I saw faces, a young black reporter nodding vigorously, an older white columnist frowning like he'd bitten lemon, a Latina camerawoman mouthing, "Wow." Our military preaches accountability, I continued, body language steady even though sweat slicked my spine. Yet a colonel exploited blind trust to erase a record, gamble on a death certificate, and outsource his daughter's survival to chance. The system let him because the system worships rank. That ends today. A ripple of applause, surprising, unscripted. It emboldened me. The evidence you now hold lives on an immutable ledger across thousands of devices. Delete it and check some errors out every time. So, no, this isn't a fabrication. It's the audit trail Zero Trust forgot to run on itself. Questions volleyed again. I answered quickly, referencing citations, quoting the CPS statutes. Mom bent like paper clips, mid-sentence. My smartwatch pinged, security feed update. A thumbnail showed Dad in handcuffs being led into a side corridor. Hayden walking 2 steps behind officers. Her face granite. My throat tightened. Victory never tastes pure. There's always ash in the sweetness. A reporter barked. What happens to your career now that you violated? Protocol I finished. Maybe I lose a star. Maybe I gain a nation's worth of foster kids who realize they're not clerical errors. Either way, I'll sleep. Flashbulbs popped. I felt the weight of the moment settle like watching the coin mid-flight, knowing whatever side it lands on. Physics answers to no one. Then all screens blinked, feed hijacked by a new video Hayden in a detention room. Shoulder rank removed, eyes blazing. This is Captain Hayden Carter, Space Force. Her recorded voice rang out. I accessed a classified node attempting to shield national assets from a cyber threat. I acted without orders. I accept investigation, but insist my sister's data remains uncompromised. Reporters gasped. The feed cut back to the newsroom anchor. Scrambling. A hush fell, heavy as concrete. Hayden had just sacrificed reputation to validate the evidence chain publicly. My starched collar felt suddenly too tight. One journalist whispered by the mic, but the hiss carried. 2 daughters. Same storm, different routes. Morales' radio crackled. All personnel. Code Amber. Protest forming outside. Need evac for principal. She glanced at me. They've stationed riot barriers on 14th Street. Some vets defend your dad. Others chant your hashtag. Temperatures rising. I looked around cords, tripods, spilled coffee chaos seeds. A single spark could stampede the hallway. Time to exit, Morales urged. Through the lobby, they'll flank me. We need altitude. My mind clicked rooftop helipad for VIPs. Prop wash plus skyline cameo. Symbolic as Gettysburg. She nodded. Service elevator 90 feet that way. Move. We wove between press tables. Shouts spiked behind us. Cameras gave chase. Vega's text lit up, heads up DOD just pulled your clearance. Badge may fail checkpoints. We reached a security gate. Turnstile read my ID. Blinked. Access denied. Voices closed in. Morales yanked a stun baton from her belt. Jammed it between the metal bars. Sparks flew. Lock disengaged. Sometimes brute force is elegant, she quipped. We sprinted into the staff elevator. Doors sealed. I slumped against paneled wall. Chest heaving. Morales keyed the roof. Elevator hummed. Why help me? I asked. She shrugged. Rainy nights stick with you. I couldn't lift you out of that storm. But maybe I can stop the next one. Floors ticked past 10, 12, 14. The hum slowed. Suddenly elevator jolted, halted between levels. Alarm beeped. A mechanical voice, emergency stop, activated. My stomach dropped into my boots. I tapped smartwatch dead signal inside the shaft. Morales cursed softly. Pried at the panel. Manual override's been cut. Someone wanted us boxed in. Dad's loyalists, rogue contractors. Doesn't matter, physics answers to no one. But power to some. I knelt. Pulled off one heel. Pried the micro SD from its pad. Slid it under the door seam habit, learned from servers and air gaps, always leave a back door. Metal groaned overhead. Cables quivering. Morales met my gaze. Eyes, flinty. If they're cutting lines, they won't delete me twice, I said, gripping the Route 66 coin like a rosary. Heads or tails, but this time no spin, only grip. Cables pinged again sharp. Gut-level sound of steel under sudden strain. ChatGPT deny. The elevator shuddered like a creature trying to shake us off its spine. Metal groans echoed through the shaft. Each one lower and more guttural than the last. Sweat prickled under my collar. Morales' flashlight painted nervous commas across the walls. Somewhere above. Gears coughed, then went ominously quiet. Brake shoes should have engaged by now, she muttered. Prying the service panel with her baton. Somebody's locked out the safeties. The floor lurched another inch. My stomach chimed a warning gravity's first love tap. I pressed a palm to the wall, faint vibration. Like a tuning fork searching for pitch. Below us waited 50-plus feet of nothing and a concrete kiss. Options, I asked. Voice tight. Vent hatch. Morales aimed the beam upward. The ceiling's escape panel was bolted shut with a padlock the size of my fist, new. Shiny. Deliberate. Not standard hardware. Sabotage confirmed. I tapped my smartwatch, still jammed. No Vega. No signal. The coin in my hand felt heavier, as if absorbing every ounce of tension in the shaft. You trust me? Morales asked. I trusted you at 13, I said. I trust you now. She holstered the baton, interlaced her fingers. Step up. I boost you. You pop that lock.
I wedged the coin's edge between two fingers' improvised shim and planted a boot in her clasped hands. She hoisted me toward the hatch. Ceiling panels were slick with maintenance grease. My fingertips slipped twice before I found purchase. Close up. The padlock's keyway glinted like an eye daring me to blink. "No time for finesse," I whispered. I jammed the coin into the shackle gap and twisted. Soft metal bent, protesting. Head surrendered a tiny curl of silver Washington, losing his profile, but the lock didn't budge. Below, Morales grunted, cables singing again. I angled the coin, using the nanoscopic QR engraving as a serrated edge, and sawed. Head, tail. Head metal fatigue whispered. Almost. One final twist, and the shackle snapped. The lock clattered to the floor, ringing like a starting bell. Got it. I shoved the hatch up. Warm. Dusty air poured in, smelling of burnt rubber and ozone. Morales boosted herself beside me. We scrambled onto the car roof, knees skidding on hot steel. Red strobes flashed from a maintenance catwalk 2 stories above. Between us and salvation spun the drum drive, its massive pulley motionless. Cables slack. Someone had tripped a remote brake override, freezing gears while gravity gnawed at the remaining tension. One cable strand was visibly frayed, wire filaments splayed like a steel palm. "Cut once more and we free fall," Morales said, wiping sweat from her lip. I scanned the shaft. A thin fiber optic line snaked from the motor housing up toward the catwalk router's improvised kill switch. Classic Spearcorp contractor tech. Dad's buddies again. Sever that and the mechanical brakes might reset. But the line dangled 3 feet out of reach over a yawning void. Morales saw it too. Jump's impossible. "No," I said slowly, eyes drifting to the cable, "but swing is—" She followed my stare. Inhaled hard. "You're kidding." I fished the coin chain out from under my blouse. Vega had threaded it on paracord for luck. I looped it around the frayed cable, nodding twice. When the next strand snaps, the slack'll jerk. We ride the momentum. Grab the fiber. Cut it. "You fall. That coin's your tombstone." It's always been that. The elevator jerked another inch. Individual wires sang high notes, one by one breaking under strain. Morales wrapped her hands around the paracord behind me. "Mount." "1," I said, bracing. A twang, second-to-last wire gone. The car dipped and yanked upward like an angry marionette. Momentum swung us across the gap. I stretched, fingers clawing the fiber line missed by a hair. Back we swung, cables squealing. Again, Morales shouted. The final wire squealed, snapped. Car dropped half a story before the emergency clamps bit rail guides, sparks cascading like July fireworks. The abrupt stop slingshotted us forward. My hand closed around the fiber optic strand. "Hold," I roared, legs dangling in midair. Morales anchored the paracord, boots sliding on the roof. I bit the cord and jerked my head. Plastic sheath split. The moment it severed, floodlights blinked white and the brake servo whirred back to life, system rebooting to default safe mode. The car below groaned but stayed put. We hung there, panting, metallic taste peppering our tongues. Somewhere, toast dry overhead. A relay clicked, normal power restored. Morales and I hauled ourselves back onto the car roof, then through the hatch to the elevator floor, hands shaking. As we caught our breath, my smartwatch blinked to life signal restored. 30 push alerts stacked like dominoes. Colonel Carter charged with felony record tampering. DOJ launches criminal investigation into child abandonment fund. White House press secretary calls for swift accountability. Another buzz. Vega video called. Her face filled the screen, lit by triple monitor glow. "Jesus, Sloan. Your vitals flatlined for 30 seconds. What happened?" I angled the camera to show sparks still smoldering on the shaft walls. Long story. Short version coin still works.
She laughed. Relief ragged. Good. 'Cause you'll need it. House Armed Services scheduled an emergency hearing for 0900 tomorrow. They subpoenaed you, your parents, and get this, every foster family on record. My pulse quickened. They're putting abandonment on trial.
And the narrative's yours to steer, Vega said. But brace, public sentiment's polarizing. Some call you hero, others traitor. #CheckSomeChild now competes with Save Our Soldiers vets, claiming you betrayed a decorated officer. Typical America gladiator pit of empathy versus tradition. Morales met my eyes. You step into that hearing. Some will want your head on a pike. Better visible than vanished, I replied, pocketing the coin edge dented. QR code still intact. Tell Congress I'll testify. Lobby with ghosts. Elevator doors finally pried open at the mezzanine, revealing a handful of FBI agents and windbreakers. One flashed credentials. General Carter. Director wants protective custody. Protective or restrictive, I asked. Depends how many enemies you have, he deadpanned, leading us through service corridors reeking of stale coffee and adrenaline. We entered the once sleek lobby, now a siege ground. Protest lines dueled across velvet ropes one side, hoisted placards that read, "Sloan equals truth." The other waved "Honor the Colonel." Police kept them apart like rival thunderstorms. Flashes burst as reporters spotted me. I scanned the crowd and froze. Mom stood near the barricade, hair wind-whipped, courtroom heels dusty. She clutched a Bible. Ironic, since scripture never guided her ethics. Our gazes locked. Her expression wasn't rage or fear, it was calculation. Mathing out odds. She mouthed something, plead fifth, a final command disguised as maternal advice. I touched the coin through my pocket. Washington's face was scarred now, proof that symbols evolve under pressure. Thunder before the gavel, FBI whisked Morales and me into an armored Suburban. As doors slammed, sky cracked open, real thunder this time. Summer storm invading D.C., sirens. Rain pounded roof panels. Wipers fought a losing battle. I once feared rain. Now it sounded like an anthem. Phone buzzed Hayden. One line of text. Don't let them frame you. I'll testify. 2. She attached a photo, Dad in an orange jumpsuit behind bulletproof glass. Gaze vacant. Even meteors burn out. I typed back, "See you at the Hill."
Morales glanced sideways. "Ready for round 3.
Lightning hits tallest object, I said, eyes on Capitol Dome ahead. Tomorrow, I'm the lightning rod. We turned onto Constitution Avenue. Protest chants blurred with sirens. Rain. The hum of power lines, America's messy chorus. Inside my pocket, the coin vibrated against the Suburban's acceleration, as if eager for its next collision with history. Congress convenes the way glaciers move, slow, loud, and capable of carving canyons, but the hearing room that morning felt more like a blast furnace. Reporters jammed every inch of the marble corridor outside. Protesters drummed rhythms that rattled window panes. Inside, rows of polished cherry desks gleamed beneath chandeliers that once watched McCarthy grill dissidents. Today, their light fell on me. Brigadier General Sloan Carter, sworn in under penalty of perjury to explain why a family's private deletion became the nation's public crisis. I felt the Route 66 coin warming my palm. Staccato pulse syncing with the chanting echo beyond the doors. That coin had survived rain, sabotage, and an elevator nearly turned guillotine. Now it faced Congress. "General Carter," boomed Chairman Watkins, an Alabama drawl lacquered in courtesy. "You have the floor." I adjusted the single microphone, no slides. No theatrics this time. Only unvarnished voice. Chairman, distinguished members. My statement is simple. Paper beats blood. But truth beats paper. Gasps fluttered like sparrows along the spectator gallery. The deletion of my childhood record was not a clerical error. It was a calculated act of abandonment leveraged by rank and power. Screens behind me displayed the redacted CPS forms, the trust fund clause, payable on my hypothetical death. Senators leaned in, cameras zoomed, and justice sat front row. Impossible to unsee. Representative Briggs, a retired Marine, launched the first missile. General, some argue your leak jeopardized national security more than your father's actions. How do you justify endangering classified channels? I met his gaze steadily. With respect, sir. A nation that can't protect one child on its own soil has already compromised its security. Murmurs, some approving, some indignant. I could almost hear Twitter drafting headlines. She went there. Then came the twist, nobody scripted. Doors at the rear swung wide. Captain Hayden Carter strode in. Still uniformed, but minus rank insignia, investigation pending. She requested permission to testify as rebuttal witness. The committee allowed it. Sensing raw drama, Hayden took the chair beside me, eyes glossy but determined. Congresswoman Patel asked yesterday why our family chose deletion over adoption. She began, I'm here to admit I knew the truth 5 years before today, and stayed silent to preserve my assent. That silence rotted my metals. I withdraw any claim to them. The room inhaled as one. Hayden slid her Space Force commendations across the table, silver wings clinking like thrown dice, symbolic surrender that hit harder than my coin. Third character pivot. The accomplice becomes whistle partner. Marshals ushered Colonel Richard Carter in, wearing the unmistakable orange of pre-arraignment. Shackles rattled. He still managed an officer's posture. When sworn, he tried a different offense contrition. I believed I was shielding my daughter from psychological hardship. He read, voice hoarse. In hindsight, I mistook control for care. Committee members exchanged wary looks. It was almost apology but I noted the passive grammar I mistook. Not I chose. Lawyer's touch. I stood. Permission to address the witness. Mr. Chairman.
Granted.
I faced Dad fully. Do you regret deleting me, or only being caught? Silence thick enough to butter. Dad's jaw worked, but no sound. On the monitor, public comment scroll lit up viewers nationwide texting their verdicts. The American jury box is endless and online. Debate stretched hours, statutes, ethics, budgets for child record oversight. At dusk, the air turned sticky. The overhead lights oppressive. I felt the moment contracting toward resolution. Time for one final action. I placed the Route 66 coin on the hearing room dais. This coin rode in a 13-year-old's pocket, all the way from abandonment to this hall. Its underside contains a QR code to an open-source bill I drafted overnight, the Checksum Child Act. It mandates immutable audit trails for all juvenile records and criminalizes intentional erasure. I ask this committee to sponsor it, right now, in bipartisan form. Gasps. Even the stenographer paused. Chairman Watkins cleared his throat. You're proposing legislation, with a quarterette. 25 cents of metal outworked $1 billion security apparatus. I answered. Imagine what Congress can do. A hush settled. The dense quiet that precedes seismic votes. Symbol one last time. Upgraded from talisman to policy seed. Parliamentary whispers fluttered. Some members smiled, sensing legacy. Others frowned, weighing lobbyists. A motion surfaced to fast-track the bill to subcommittee. Speaker lights blinked aye or nay. Results tallied dead tie. Chairman Watkins, by rule, held the tiebreaker. He glanced at me, then at the coin. His gavel hovered. Outside, thunder rumbled summer front, rolling over the mall. I pictured the Love's awning flapping in similar wind. The sound of raindrops on styrofoam cups. My body remembered cold, but my mind felt blazing clear. Watkins lowered the gavel but halted inches above wood. "Before I cast," he said. "This chair invites closing remarks from the child who became a general." Every eye pinned me. Here was open-ending the future balanced like the coin mid-air. I inhaled. I don't ask for a star back, or revenge. I ask that no kid's existence depend on the integrity of someone else's ambition. Approve the bill, and America stands a little taller. Reject it, and we keep the software bug that lets children vanish. A long beat, Watkins nodded slowly. Gavel struck. Motion passes to subcommittee with full recommendation. Not final victory. Congress is labyrinthine, but a door unbarred. In the corridor. Microphones surged. I delivered my last lines to every lens. DNA is hardware. Choice is software. Today we patched one exploit. Plenty remain. Stay logged in.
Morales clapped my shoulder. Vega sent a confetti emoji. Hayden tucked the scarred coin back into my hand. Dad was led away. Sentence pending. Mom faced the swarm of civil suits she once weaponized. The nation argued in hashtags. But beneath noise sprouted policy drafts, foster care panels, civic hackathons rewriting databases to be tamper-proof.
Tomorrow my resignation would formalize. Checksum Kids, the nonprofit, already had 300,000 small donor sign-ups, many from viewers like you who refuse to let stories disappear. So, subscribers, you rode the storm from a gas station goodbye to a congressional gavel. If the journey moved you, smash that like, share this saga with anyone who's ever felt erased, and hit subscribe because our next series crowdsources tech solutions for vulnerable families. And I need your brain in the firewall. Tell me in the comments, what record of yours family? School. Medical deserves an unbreakable checksum. I read every post. Trolls included. They're just checksum tests for empathy. I'll leave you with one last spin. Clink. The coin arcs toward camera. End over end. Frame freezing as copper flashes between heads and tails. Which side lands is up to the country and, maybe, to you. Catch you in the next upload. Until then, keep your data honest and your hearts firewalled.